to look up at the stars. No, 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 no.
Come take a look at my dream world.
You don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat, if you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stunt. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar. And the way I change gear, you can put me in the car. I remember when me and Seif used to sneak in every concert door. Now I got my feet in. Every day is Gift Friday, no weekend.
You don't have to look up at the stars.
Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite live sports show that is not stuff about sports and bolstered up sports. It is indeed hashtag thisJUSTin, and we've got a cast for you. You see the title, but before I get to the title, Adam Lewis needs no introduction. He's here every week. So let's go to our other cast. It's been so long, Brian Bolster, but welcome back to hashtag thisJUSTin. What's up?
Hey, I'm so appreciative that you guys have had me back. It has been far too long, and I'm excited.
I'm not excited, but y'all guys are right. I am to have Jerm back. Jerm, your Bills won this weekend, but we don't want to hear about that. That's not on the docket. What's going on, my brother?
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about how even though everybody wrote off the Bills, they still have the number 1 point differential in the NFL. But I'm doing really good, man. I'm doing wonderful, feeling blessed with some talented guys, and I can't wait to talk about some sports with you.
Jerm, I don't know if it's my end, but we can't see you, or I can't see you at least. Is your camera off?
No.
Okay, cool.
It's because I'm shining too bright. That's all.
He's hiding the truth. I get it. It's okay.
Well, who's not been shining bright is the team that was the number 1 seed in the NFC for the past 2 seasons, and that's none other than my Green Bay Packers, who have now fallen to 4-8, and I have to believe are definitely outside of the playoff hunt with absolutely no chance to make that final 7. Aaron Rodgers probably has a broken rib or 2, and I think it's time to see Jordan Love going forward. But Brian Bolster, we're not here to talk about that. Considering that these Packers were expected to do things after 3 successive 13-win seasons, is there a case that head coach Matt LaFleur should be fired?
Not based on just purely Matt LaFleur. I think that's kind of crazy.
Agreed.
Just like you said, 3 13-win seasons in a row. His record is 43-18, including this season. And I know he's 2-3 in the playoffs, which is the main disappointing part, I think, of his coaching resume so far. I know this year's been a disappointment, but firing a coach with that kind of record, I do think is pretty crazy. Although I'm with you, I had very high expectations for the Green Bay Packers coming into this season as well. And you can't say anything other than this has been a massive disappointment.
Adam seeing question, are you going, Brian, say that, it's just a down year, or is Matt LaFleur's hands all over this 4-8?
Yeah, I mean, well, when you put it with Matt LaFleur's hands all over them 4-8, I don't think we can excuse him from that innocence. And I know you and I, Justin, personally, have talked a lot about Joe Barry, who's absolutely clueless. I'm not going to say LaFleur's clueless, but I am also going to side with Brian as well. 3 straight first-place titles in the division, 2 NFC first seeds, like you said, the last couple of years. The record, clearly, of course, it's not pretty in the playoffs. And I know that's where, when you have a lot of talent, when you have a big fan base, when you have a lot of expectations, it's like Super Bowl or nothing. And you look at the playoffs last year, I think the 49ers don't even score a touchdown correct and beat them in the playoffs. So there's a lot going on here, but I don't think LaFleur necessarily deserves to lose his job because look at what he's done, the first 3 years out of the gate. I do believe it's just a down year, and I just want to go on record and say this as well. Everyone that was saying that, maybe Devontae actually won that trade with the Raiders, look at the Raiders. Look at how the Packers are, the Packers are affected by not having him. So I definitely think there's fault on not necessarily both of those teams, but a lot of people were saying, with Devontae leaving, maybe they won the trade. And no, clearly the Packers are struggling without him. We've seen the offense this year as well. But I'm not going to go as far as saying that Matt LaFleur deserves to lose his job. It's hard to fire a guy with 43 wins and 18 losses in his first 4 years in the league. So I think I will pass on that.
Jerm's got on the all black, so he's coming to Matt LaFleur's funeral. Is he?
Hey, man, get him out of here.
Oh,
Enough of Matt LaFleur. Not just the record can't buy you everything.
No.
This is like Eli Manning all over again. But he got 2 Super Bowls. So what? Good riddance, Matt LaFleur. Okay. It's not your on coaching prowess. The record does speak for itself, but a lot of that is talent, right? Aaron Rodgers can't claim, Matt LaFleur's biggest, not indictment, but I guess his biggest champion in this is that Aaron Rodgers, before he got there, in his last 48 starts, it was 24, 23, and 1. So it wasn't like Aaron Rodgers is covering. Matt LaFleur is a good coach. However, Matt LaFleur, you paid Aaron Rodgers $100 million or whatever the contract was. You, Matt LaFleur, 4 years, $50 million a year. You, Matt LaFleur, somehow are trotting out the bag of just absolute monkey crap that is Joe Brady to coach this awful defense. You have 2 excellent running backs, and you just figured out how to use them. Now it's too late because they keep getting banged up. Matt LaFleur, sorry, buddy. The clock is on you, and if you can't, the only reason you should fire Matt LaFleur because there's only one guy that can replace him, and he's available, and his name is Sean Payton.
His
and he
name
can get it
out
done.
of your mouth, Jerm. I'm gonna get
Payton.
off of this show if you keep doing this, man.
Sean
I did good
Payton.
enough to get back into it, bro. Like, you're trying to pull me out.
Nah, man. Sean Payton is the one. He knows how to win. Matt LaFleur
back in the league.
Yeah, so not for your Saints, but that's
Hey.
So Matt LaFleur, get out of here, Matt LaFleur. I don't care about you. I don't believe in the Steelers philosophy that you stick with a coach and through the good and bad, and eventually it'll work out. No, you keep hiring coaches and you keep drafting quarterbacks every year until you find the guy. I don't care how many draft picks and how many firings it takes.
There.
I'll say this. I know Packer fans wanted my head when I posted the promo for the show, suggesting that maybe I was considering firing Matt LaFleur. The weird thing is Brian Bolster is a person who allowed me to start looking at Matt LaFleur, how I should look at him. And it was from that NFC title game loss against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Brian was the person who told me, in times of adversity, a coach is going to show you who he really is. And the thing is, since that day, I started to look at Matt LaFleur, and what I've realized, if anything, he is a very reactive head coach. He is not proactive. And like y'all guys said, the record may find it hard to fire Matt LaFleur, but at the very least, it should be consideration, guys, and I'll explain why. Going into this season, we all thought, or at least any of us who understood football thought, the Green Bay Packers on offense should be a run-first offense. Like, that should have been clear. And I don't mean run-first in those silly RPOs where you're standing up in shotgun and not giving your running backs any head of steam. I mean standing up under center and running the football first, and any pass coming out of that should be play action. I mean, after all, the 2 years before that, Aaron Rodgers was the best play-action passer in the league. You no longer have Devontae Adams. You have no connection with these young rookie wide receivers. I thought it should be obvious, especially when Aaron Jones obviously is your best skill position player. But for whatever reason, Matt LaFleur took till the Dallas game to understand this should be a run-first offense. And I think that speaks to a level of incompetence. Because I don't know how you go into this season not understanding that Aaron Jones is your best player. I just don't get that. Then, again, in the reactive situation, it took 5 fumbles for them to understand Amari Rodgers should no longer be your punt returner or kick returner. I don't understand how it took that long. After the first few fumbles, that you have to put Amari Rodgers out of the game. And to put this in better perspective, outside of quarterbacks or running backs, I think Amari Rodgers leads the league in lost fumbles by a significant margin. And he only had 2 jobs, returning kicks and returning punts. And he had 5 fumbles in, I want to say, 9 games. It took you halfway through the season to get rid of him. But I think the major concern or the major reason that you should look at firing Matt LaFleur is what Adam brought up, and it's the insistence of sticking with Joe Barry. Like, when you look at this Packers team, all of your talent is on defensive end. Before they were lost to injury, you had Rashawn Gary, you had Devondre Campbell, you have the highest paid cornerback in Jair Alexander. And yet, time and time again, Joe Barry has told us that the only thing he knows how to coach is 2 high safety zones and soft 2 high safety zones. It is almost like Joe Barry refuses to prepare for opponents. Sunday night is like no difference. Every one of us knows what Philadelphia is coming to do. They don't disguise it. Philadelphia is coming to run the football. Joe Barry starts the first quarter with 2 high safeties. Yes, he had Quay Walker in as a spike initially, but yet you still allowed Jason Kelce to get up to the second level and take him away. Brandon don't have to tell you, if you are playing against a running team and a quarterback that's going to run, there's simple standards that you set. You don't let your defensive ends get too far up the field. You keep a spike in. You don't let that center get up to the second level. You don't blitz him. And it took after the first quarter, after Jalen Hurts ran for over 100 yards, for Joe Barry to realize I need to put another safety in the box and play 1 high safety. It is almost like he did not prepare for the Philadelphia Eagles, who have done what they're doing for the last 2 seasons. Your insistence on keeping Joe Barry, refusal to drop Amari Rodgers, and failure to understand simplicity of your offense tells me Matt LaFleur may not be the guy for the job. And yes, we can point to the 13-3, 13-3, and 13-4 seasons. But gentlemen, let's not pretend that over those 3 seasons, the Green Bay Packers were not a stacked roster. Know that the talent is waning. You have to show your mettle. There's no longer a Devontae Adams. There's no Marquez Valdes-Scantling. There's no Corey Linsley. There's no Zadarius Smith. Now, with those players gone, you have to show your mettle. And I'll temper my words here. What I have seen this season shows me a coach who is unprepared. After every game, it's the same saying over and over again. I should have found ways to give Aaron Jones a ball. Like, what? Like, going into any game plan, you should be telling yourself, I have to find a way to give Aaron Jones the ball 15 to 20 times. Guys, I don't know if y'all want to respond, because I can go on and make this a Packers show, but
I can tell
it's...
Go ahead, Jerm.
No, I was going to say, you guys would get healthy and OBJ's coming.
Oh, OBJ ain't going to play in the snow. I'd be shocked. But, I will say there is a case to fire Matt LaFleur. I think this year would be aggressive.
Right.
Just because, you play to win the game kind of stuff. But I think it could be helpful being proactive. And the most criticism I would have for Matt LaFleur is that the Packers aren't a tough team.
Right.
And they seem to have declined in that fashion over each of the years that Matt LaFleur has been in charge. And I think that would be the number one indictment of a Matt LaFleur-led team. So I think, if you're going to make a change, I do think it has to be something radical, right? And I do think they need to do something radical at the end of this season, whether it is trade Aaron Rodgers and go with Jordan Love and go full rebuild if you really believe in Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
Or I could see the case where you fire Matt LaFleur and get a coach in with Aaron Rodgers. The only and main pushback I will have against that is I really do think the Packers hired Matt LaFleur to appease Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know there's been some disagreements between the two, but I really think they hired a personality like Matt LaFleur because of Aaron Rodgers, if that makes sense. They didn't hire a I don't know. It didn't work out, but a Joe Judge on purpose.
Right.
If that makes sense. Right. Where that guy was his whole MO was gonna be toughness.
Yeah. No, you moving forward with Jordan Love. There's just one problem in trading Aaron Rodgers next season. I think the dead cap hit number would be excessive, and guys, like, he's not going to retire either because he has a guaranteed $53 million coming his way next season. So for better or worse, the Packers are moving forward with Aaron Rodgers next season. But Adam, after watching a team that has struggled on offense mightily, not even scoring 20 points per game in their first, I want to say, 10 games, 11 games, the Packers exploded for, I want to say, 33 against the team with the best record. 10-33 came with backup Jordan Love in the fourth quarter. So for the 10-1 start that the Philadelphia Eagles have, Adam, are there signs of concerns for you going forward with these Eagles?
Just a little bit. And there's been, the whole schedule discrepancy about how the Vikings got to where they're at and how the Eagles got to where they're at. But focusing on Philadelphia's situation, first thing I'll always say is you're going to play who's in front of you. You're not going to be able to craft your schedule and bring down your opponent like you're going to play who's in front of you, right? But that doesn't mean that once you get deeper into your schedule and now the season's starting to move along, you're having postseason hopes creep in. So more pressure is kind of overall on the team. Even if it's not a superior team like the Packers are at the 4-8 record this year, they still came out and played hard. They still came out and gave Philadelphia, a little bit of a run for their money. And so this is something that we could see with maybe some of these lesser teams in Philadelphia, because I think we can all say they're a top two, if not the best team in the league right now. So it's like, who could really challenge them? It's really everybody. This is why it's the NFL. Anyone can lose on any certain day. And I'm not saying that Philadelphia is going to go on a 4 or 5 game skid and fall out of the place that they're in. But when the season starts to get later, when games start to get, a little more intense because, December and January are around the corner, this was my concern. And this is why I was holding back a little bit, a few weeks ago and a month or so ago. People were like, oh, Philadelphia is Super Bowl bound. This is the best team in the league. Have they been tested? In my opinion, not necessarily a whole lot yet. They really shouldn't have struggled with the Colts. Jerm, shout out to you for calling the Washington game yesterday against the Packers. So that's 3 straight ones, right? But then you talk about the fact that Nick Sirianni is a second-year head coach. Jalen Hurts did play in a playoff game last year, but now he's got bigger standards. He's doing higher things. So there's going to be more expected out of him. Can they handle that pressure? I'm not absolutely sure. I'm about 50-50 right now, maybe about 60-40 in the terms of Philadelphia actually being able to overcome these problems. But again, when the implications are high, when you're starting to get into the later games in the season, this is when the quarterback and the coach really start to mend. Are they on the same page? And I think that they are, but can they handle this pressure? Because it's not going to get easier from here. I don't care if you play the Texans for the next 5-6 games going out of the season. You're playing every single one to keep that very coveted 1 seed in the NFC. And if you ask me, nobody needs the 1 seed right now more than Philadelphia because of the inexperience that they have on the team. Not calling them a shoddy team. They've got the capability to win it all, but have they been faced with that pressure yet? They haven't, in my opinion, so we'll see.
Ooh, so there are concerns for Adam. Do you see these concerns, or do you feel these same concerns, Jerm? Or are you just saying that the NFL is tough and Philadelphia Eagles are finding ways to win regardless? We're not hearing you, Jerm.
My bad. I was on mute, trying to be respectful. Sorry about that. Shout out to Adam for shouting me out for being right about the Washington game.
I rescind it.
Not only are the Philadelphia Eagles not the best team in the league, they're not even the best team in the NFC, and they may not even be the best team in their division. I don't care what the record says. Not any of us. Look, Adam just said it. Records are records. You play who you got. The Vikings have a super nice record too. Does anybody think they're a top 5 team in the league? No. So the record doesn't. You think they're a top 5 team? That's insane. But so the record is the record. Congrats to them. But they have the same issues they had way back in week 1 versus the Lions that I've seen. Their special team sucks and their run defense sucks. And I'm not going to give Jordan Love. I know a lot of Packers fans were excited because he threw that touchdown. The Eagles weren't playing real defense. They didn't care. Like they just let him get his stuff off. And the Eagles, they still couldn't stop the run. They still have turnover problems on offense. They still have scheme issues on defense, and their special teams is bad. Yeah, that's great for beating up the Texans and the lowly Packers right now, but how's that going to matter when you face real NFC contenders? Like, how's that going to work out when you have to face the 49ers? How's that going to work out when you have to face Tom Brady, perhaps? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So we'll see. There are concerns for Philly. The good thing for them is that Jalen Hurts is excellent. And even though I don't think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, I do believe that Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback by far in the NFC. And he's camouflaging a lot for them right now. So congrats to them for winning. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but to act like they're some juggernaut is a little premature. And unfortunately, it is about who they've faced. They've struggled against Detroit. They've got beaten by Washington, who all of a sudden the Senator Taylor Heineke's saving their season. These things are about matchups, right? Washington
100%.
matches up well with Philly. Like, that's just the reality of it. And it'll be interesting to see when the matchups get even tougher when the playoffs start. And so Philly better tighten up those things that I spoke about.
I'd love to address that. Jalen Hurts being the best quarterback in the NFC, but we don't really have time. We'll do
By
that
far the best.
Didn't see that one coming. Brain, do you have these similar concerns for Philadelphia, or are you cool that they're just winning and finding ways to win? You're also on mute, Brain.
I apologize. I don't have concerns with Philadelphia. Now, that doesn't mean that they're just like a Super Bowl lock, but they're a really good team in really every phase of football, especially, just the main two, defense and offense. They run the ball well. Their passing game is really efficient. Of course, that all stems from the run game. I think the most important thing, if you really are going to play out, is this.
Did it again, man. You're muted again, Brian.
All good?
Yeah, you're good.
No, phone. Right. I don't know.
You're good. I think just if you want to play this down the line, like, are the Eagles really the best team in the NFC or in the NFL? I think it's exactly what Jerm said. Like, how that's going to play out is matchups. It's all very matchup dependent. And I think you could see a scenario where when they get to the playoffs, this is very much a 2019 Ravens team. And I think it would actually be best for them to not get the bye. I think this team would need to keep it rolling. And the reason I bring up the Ravens is I love this offense, and it's not the same exact offense, but I love this offense. But the kind of naysayers will say there's not a ton of options. You don't have a ton of answers once the run gets stopped. And you can say that really for any offense, to be quite frank. But this offense involves the quarterback running the ball as well. It's a larger chunk of the offense, and the passing game in particular, a larger chunk of that is based off of success in the run game. So it just comes down to your quarterback's going to have to do something that he hasn't had to do much in the regular season. That doesn't mean that he can't do it. He just hasn't had to go to that option very often. And that's kind of the question. And it's going to be hard for a team, a coach, and a quarterback to do that for the first time.
Yep.
Getting over the hill, I think, is always the toughest part. But I think Jalen Hurts, I have no questions about Jalen Hurts, to be quite honest with you. And in terms of the long term, I think his moxie, the mental side of the game, and his leadership is so impressive. All the way back to his days in college, like, just an extremely impressive man. And I think for the long term of the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to feel great. This season, it would be a relatively unprecedented thing for them to really go all the way and win a Super Bowl. I think that's asking a little bit too much.
Yep.
I have some concerns over that run defense. Like, you knew what the Packers were coming to do, and you still couldn't stop the run. I mean, they weren't as bad against the run like we were. Good God, 363 yards worth. That's another conversation for another time. That run defense kind of, gives me cause for concern. But I think the rookie run stuffer that they had was out injured, and whenever he gets back, probably we will see a different scenario up front for them. But like Brian said, my concern is when they get to playoffs and people take away that run. Like, what can Jalen Hurts beat you as a pocket passer, or can Jalen Hurts make the throws to beat you in the playoffs? And I know that sounds kind of blasé, sounds kind of, like, simple to say, but the reality of the situation at some point, Jalen Hurts is going to have to do quarterback things to beat you. And can he do that in the playoffs? We're yet to see. Because the team, I think, that's the best team in the NFC right now are indeed those San Francisco 49ers. So, Jerm, right now, I'll ask you this question. Like, what do you think of the San Francisco 49ers? Because you said that you don't have the Eagles as the best team in the conference. So would you put the 7-4 49ers as the best team? And before I'll let you answer, I'll put some context to this. A game since trading for Christian McCaffrey, this team is 4-0, and in that 4-0 span, they have not allowed a single second half touchdown. Far less, they have shut out every single team in that 4-0 stretch in the second half, including a complete 13-0
Stop it.
domination.
God. That's what you get. Got him like ugly. Bless you, brother.
The 49ers, best team in the NFC?
Absolutely the best team in the NFC. And thank you, because you stole half of my thunder giving me the facts, the numbers to back up my claims. And let's just do it in simple man terms, because that stuff about sports, we don't like to delve into numbers too much. We go by the eye test. Do the Eagles have a better defense than the 49ers? Hell no. Justin just gave you the numbers. They got hitters all over the place. Swarming defense. Shout out to D'Amico Ryan, who former Eagle, by the way, is destroying teams. Offense, say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you know what record he just broke? He joined Joe Montana and Steve Young for the most winningest quarterback in San Francisco 49er history. He's been there 5 years, folks. Okay, enough of this Jimmy Garoppolo stuff. I hate when people try to downplay Jimmy Garoppolo like he's Nathan Peterman or somebody. He's a good quarterback. He has an all-time efficiency rating. He's one of the most winningest quarterbacks in NFL history. So enough. Jimmy G, I'm not sitting there saying that he's Tom Brady in disguise, but he's good. He's above average. And when you have that on top of Christian McCaffrey, the most dangerous weapon in the NFL, and then you have Brandon Ayuk, who's coming out party in the Swiss Army knife, Deebo Samuel. The only person you're scared of on the Eagles besides Jalen Hurts is A.J. Brown. Quez Watkins ain't getting it done.
I'd like to have a conversation with you, by the way.
Okay, we can have that conversation anytime you want. So I don't care about offensive numbers and records. The San Francisco 49ers offense is better than Eagles offense, and it is because of Christian McCaffrey now. Just because the Eagles had that few game buffer, that 4-game buffer over or more than 4 games over San Francisco. Look what the eye test is giving you. The Niners have no weaknesses in my eyes, and the Eagles do.
Same question. Sorry, Adam. Same question. Are the 49ers indeed the best team in the NFC right
this
now?
is a spicy one for sure. I don't think I'm going to say they're the best team in the NFC. I could definitely put them at number 2 or number 3, probably number 2, because I like what the Vikings are showing, but I don't think anybody on here is really going to expect Kirk Cousins to take them the distance, and we've seen Jimmy G win these big games before. I mean, y'all put a lot of the facts out there, knowing that they really have those type of numbers without Christian McCaffrey, knowing that, Jimmy G is improving with the winning record. A lot of talent on that defense. We clearly know what they bring. Shout out to the coaching staff as well. They are a very sound team, but Jerm, I got to disagree with you, man. I mean, are you going to take Jimmy G over Jalen Hurts? Is that essentially what you're saying right now? The team is in entirety, but would you take Jimmy over Jalen?
No, I said all that to say the gap between them isn't as large to make me pick the Eagles over the 49ers, right?
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts is better, but Jimmy isn't a scrub, and he's not going to be the tipping point for me.
Right. Totally understand that. And even more facts as well. I mean, we see Jimmy G's been in those big games before. He's been in NFC title games. He's been in the Super Bowl. We've all talked about if he made a couple of throws and had a couple of plays go his way, we'd probably be talking about Jimmy G as a champion, if not a couple times. But clearly it's in the past. I don't think I can make the Niners the best team in the NFC. I do think they are very close to the Eagles, but y'all put a lot of good points out there, but I can't give them the crown just yet.
Brian, you got the Eagles or the 49ers? Do you the Cowboys, 49ers, or do you believe that the best team in the
down to the Eagles and the 49ers? I still don't want to hear anything about the Vikings or the Cowboys. I think they're both frauds, to be quite honest with you. I think the 49ers are the better team. And I think that'll play out in the playoffs. It's more like we talked about, Eagles could be a matchup issue in the playoffs. Like he brought up the Bucks, which I think is the kind of the perfect example, which people are gonna like freak out about because the Bucks have a losing record. But the Bucks are a bad matchup for the Eagles. I think the 49ers are a little bit more matchup proof, in particular in the NFC. I really think that. And if you look at trends, the Eagles are number one in turnovers in terms of their defense. They have 15 picks. It's number one in the league. Turnover percentage
leads the league
Yeah.
picks. And don't want to
Yeah.
freaking pick on me today. Let me just put that out there. And they have our third overall pick too.
Yeah, now I say that because, of course, you earn those turnovers, and their teams can definitely have a knack to it. But typically speaking, you regress down to the mean some, and that doesn't mean that they wouldn't end up as the number one team still. But I think their defense is a really good one, but a little bit turnover reliant in order to be a really good defense. I would push back against their rushing defense being awful. I think it's roughly average, but the 49ers defense is insane. That defense is so good, and you aren't going to be able to run the ball against them. They have the pass rushers. The secondary's really picked up. Fred Warner, arguably the best linebacker in the NFL. Like, the 49ers are legit. I love Kyle Shanahan. I have been on that bandwagon since the Falcons days when everybody jumped off after 2016. He is a dude. He is a dude. Jimmy G is good. He makes him look really good. And they have the weapons. Jerm named them all. They have plenty of weapons to make it happen as well. Because of the playoff success that they've had, the belief I have in Kyle Shanahan over Nick Sirianni, and I think they're a little bit more matchup proof, you got to go with the 49ers.
I'm going to go with the 49ers as well, just because of that defense. I trust their defense so much more so than Philadelphia's. Like Brian said, I am not a fan of defenses that need turnovers, and the 49ers have proven that. Like, they stop the run, they can rush the passer, and they're getting healthy on the back end of that secondary. I like the 49ers, and at some point, right, when you look at their weapons, you're talking about Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, all guys who can do things after the catch. So it's not that you're going to ask Jimmy Garoppolo to do too much. Like Adam said, maybe Jalen Hurts is indeed better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but the weapons that he has, are you asking Jimmy Garoppolo too much, or are you just going to give your playmakers the ball and say, hey, go do what you do best, which is create stuff after the catch, which is not exactly what Philadelphia has. And this is not on A.J. Brown and or who's the other kid I just mentioned? Oh, gosh.
Kez Watkins.
Devontae Smith. Like, these are good playmakers, but when you look at George Kittle, like, outside of Travis Kelce, does a tight end make more after the catch than him? The answer is no. Like, you just give Christian McCaffrey the ball in space and let him go operate. And we all know the Swiss Army knife that is Deebo Samuel that can score from basically anywhere on the field. Like, I trust that offense and defense just that much more than Philadelphia. Maybe I like Minnesota more than y'all guys, but again, it's another conversation for another day. But speaking of a team that actually finishes games in the second half, to a team that has a lot of problems in doing that. Guys, the Baltimore Ravens once more. Another 2-score lead in the fourth quarter wilted away Sunday, 19-10 on the Jacksonville Jaguars and could not put it away. All 4 of their losses, gentlemen, I hope you did not realize, have come with 2-score leads in the fourth quarter. Adam, what the hell is wrong in
I think we can only look at one thing, and it's clearly the fact of clock management. It's clearly the fact of keeping your players tapped in. It's clearly the fact of showing them that no lead is truly safe in this league. And you continuously have to play hard. You know, I can't really, try to outthink the room and think that it's all these other reasons, because, I mean, when we see these coaches that literally can't manage their plays, they can't keep the tempo of the game closer to them. It's, we're up 14, we're up 21, we're up 15, like the game is over. No, absolutely not. You get a couple stops, you get a turnover, boom, they're right back in it. Your offense comes out sleeping, like the defense is going to pick up on that. And I really think that's what we're seeing in some of these Ravens games, because I know we can all sit here and say, if they didn't blow a lead, they'd be undefeated. Well, they're clearly blowing leads. They're clearly not managing the clock, and they're clearly not being completely tapped in on the field. I hate to be so basic about it, but you got to take a look at the coaching aspect. Are they managing it well? Are they keeping their players tapped in? Do they know how to keep the tempo of the game in their favor? That's clearly not what's happening with Baltimore. And I hate it too, because we know the expectations we have for them. We know Lamar Jackson's betting on himself this year to be paid $60 million next year, this, that, and the third. But it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. I want to see this team do a lot, but they got to be able to manage it, man. And you also got to look at the teams that they're blowing leads to. They're not necessarily scrubs at the end of the day. So, again, you have to take your competition seriously and can't just assume that anybody in this year in the NFL is truly going to turn over besides the Texans. Let's just call it what it is.
Brain, is this on John Harbaugh, as Adam is suggesting? Is this on Lamar Jackson, the secondary, or a mixture of all three?
I mean, realistically, it's a mixture of all three. I think we have to give John Harbaugh a little bit of benefit of the doubt. I think he knows what he's doing. Not that he makes no mistakes, but I think we can give him some benefit of the doubt. They are a weird team to look at because they could very easily, and it's always too easy to say it on paper, but be 11-0. Like, their team is really good on offense, on defense. They can run the ball. They can stop the run. They're good on turnovers. Like, they should be better than what they are. And I don't know if it's just one of those, everything seems to break against you, maybe because just the decision on the coaching part of managing the clock or just an untimely drop, things like that, that you don't want to just toss it up to luck, or if this is going to be something where this is the turning point for them and it's going to start clicking. Because they're in an interesting situation now where the Bengals have now tied up the division, and it seems like it might come down to that game at the end of the year. It's going to be interesting. I think it's on all of them. And players make plays. Players win the games. I know the defense has let them down on a couple of occasions with giving up these double-digit leads. But to me, Lamar Jackson has to step up. Not that he's been bad, but like if you want to be a top 5 guy, you have to go out and end these games. And I think that's the difference. Like, to me, that's the separating factor with a Patrick Mahomes, which I get is the gold standard. Not really anybody else is going to live up to that. But he wins at an insane pace, an unprecedented pace, because he closes people out. He absolutely does it. And if the team does happen to come back, like, you better have less than 13 seconds left on the clock, or else he's just going to answer and win the game anyways. So to me, that's all it is. Like, they're a really good team. There's no reason to panic. But the reason they aren't 11-0 is just because essentially they don't have Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, well, that's a sore spot for Jerm because he knows about Patrick Mahomes all too well closing out games. Jerm, like, what's wrong with Buffalo?
Thank you so much for saying that,
Justin.
Sorry.
What's wrong with Baltimore? Because, like everyone said, they're a couple plays from actually being 11-0, but they're 7-4.
Yeah, and if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I don't care about this play going this way and this play going that way. You want to know what's wrong with Baltimore, Justin? And Adam knows this. We all go back. The same thing I've always said. Lamar Jackson just ain't that guy. He's gotten worse every year. He bet on himself, and look at them. Now, it's easy to look at the 7-4 record they have, 7 and whatever they are, and be like, oh, everything's fine. But the fact that they continue to blow these games is a mixture of a bunch of stuff. Yep. The arrogance. We have Lamar Jackson. Oh, wait, these plays are not going the way we're making mistakes. You're not running the ball because you have Lamar Jackson. And all of a sudden, the game is on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson fails in the playoffs. Why? Because the teams force them to put Lamar Jackson in the driver's seat. Yep. That's not what he does. The way the Ravens won early is that teams prepared for everything else outside of Lamar, and he was able to be shifty enough to fit through the cracks and create a bunch of matchup problems. Now people are looking for it, and it's not working. Lastly, they don't have a number 1 receiver. OBJ, somebody. I believe they can get a high pick based on some trade they made. Like, you're going to have to get a true number 1 receiver in here at some point to help him. But until then, until all that happens, because I'm not going to sit here and disrespect John Harbaugh. He's top 3 and the coaches in the NFL. Yeah. But I do not want to hear Baltimore Ravens and Super Bowl contenders in the same sentence ever again until they actually make it there, because we hype this team up way too much. And that's part of the problem. We give Lamar Jackson all this credit because he's an MVP. It's Cam Newton all over again. I tried to tell you guys Cam Newton sucks because he got one MVP in 15 years, and then he has 14 years of 7-9, and all of a sudden he's supposed to be great. It's the same thing that's happening with Lamar Jackson. He gets one MVP, and you keep giving him the benefit of the doubt, which is going to their heads, and that's why they keep losing these games.
Come on, man. He's better than Cam Newton.
I mean, no, for sure. He's better. It's the same
Concept.
parallel. Yeah, it's the same concept.
Yeah. I love Lamar. I was never like absolutely head over heels about him. I mean, of course, he's one of the best playmakers in the league. He's like Tyreek Hill. You just love to watch him, right? But a big thing that always stuck out to me in the MVP year, I know he threw for 36 touchdowns. Don't get me wrong about that. Only 3,100 yards passing. I know he had 1,200 rushing. I know he broke Vic's record, this, that, and the third. But if you take a look back at that year, I don't feel like there was a lot of super heavy MVP competition to actually counter him. Like, I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson wasn't playing well. Aaron Rodgers was still trying to get back to what he was. And I'm not taking anything away from Lamar, but when you look at the context of his MVP year, it starts to kind of make sense of what Jerm is saying with, okay, like not with the whole Cam Newton thing, but maybe he really just isn't that dude to apply that pressure to him and actually be able to run to the Super Bowl like everybody thinks they can. Again, I'd love to see him do it. Lamar's a great guy. Like, I love the way he plays, but maybe it's just not cut for the aspirations of the Ravens and obviously their fans.
Lamar's MVP ring is the same thing as LeBron's Disney Mickey Mouse ring. It doesn't count. Nobody respects it. No, it doesn't count.
I will say that's probably his only saving grace, the MVP season, in order from being like just trash for no reason. You know, all the naysayers coming in and trying to discount these guys.
I will say this, other than last season when Lamar Jackson was hurt, since he's been drafted, the Baltimore Ravens have not missed a playoff. So we'll put that there. And he does have a playoff win. So I'll leave that there for Jerm. Who has not been the guy for certain, is Russell Wilson in Denver. And his head coach is not far behind because, gentlemen, me as a Packers fan knows this, Nathaniel Hackett was brought in for his offensive prowess, but the Denver Broncos have been nothing but offensive. I think right now they're averaging a league worst 15 points a game.
Horrible.
And they have, if not the best defense, at least a top 3 defense. Brian, I'm going to start with you this time. Like, considering that Nathaniel Hackett was brought in for his offense, but the team is what? Help me out, gentlemen. 4-7, 4-8.
Same record as myself.
You got swept by the Raiders, who I thought was the worst team than you, and you went into Carolina and found some way to score just 10 points. Should the Denver Broncos continue with Nathaniel Hackett?
You know, first, I just have to say that you can't fault Russell Wilson too bad. Sam Darnold was playing for the Panthers, all right? Sam Darnold is back.
God.
Sam Darnold is back. Let's go.
I did not see that, but I should have seen this.
All right, but on to the Broncos. If I'm a Broncos fan, I'm not concerned about Hackett. Like, fire him, clean house completely, be done with it. Like, yeah, this year, really disappointing, embarrassing, to be quite honest with you, because like you said, they have an elite defense. There was one stat, at least through maybe week 11, that if they had just scored 18 points in regulation at each game, they would have been 10-1. All right? This team is scoring 14 points per game. It's the worst offense, at least through this point, back to 2000 and the Cleveland Browns. Like, this is a historically bad offense. And where I would be concerned is with Russell Wilson. Like, I have never seen this. I feel very confident in saying that. I don't think that's like an overreaction Monday kind of take. I have never seen a player have this kind of complete 180. Like, Russell Wilson was an awesome quarterback for 10 years. He was awesome. And I get, you could say, okay, was the debate, was he ever top 5? Whatever. He was at least top 10 for 10 years and steady Like, that's the thing. He was so steady. I know some people talked about, he would fade out a little bit towards the end. But, like, in those seasons, we're talking about 40 touchdowns and 14 picks. Right now, he's not the same player at all. I know they had some injuries. If I was a Broncos fan, I would just be praying every night that that's all it is. That it's just the injuries. This is a complete fluke. They're going to end up firing everybody and everything's going to be okay because the contract, you go to look at the contract, like they are tied into this thing for a minimum of 4 more years. And if this is really the Russell Wilson that they're going to have, they're going to be a bottom 5 team for the next 4 years with paying their quarterback, top, even still by that time, it'll be top 10 money for the position. So to me, I'm not concerned about Hackett. He's going to be fired. It's going to be a clean house. But Russell Wilson, because you can't do anything about that. Like, he's the starting quarterback. As much as the defensive line will want to yell at him, he's going to be behind center.
There's a reason they left, though, Russell Wilson, because the brand said, you can't move him, not at that price. Jerm, I didn't realize that you wore all black for this reason, but I guess you're here for everyone's funeral.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that you're here for Nathaniel Hackett's funeral as well.
Actually, no. I'm not a fan of just one and done firings. I would be a hypocrite because I didn't like when the Arizona Cardinals did it to Steve Wilkes. So I'm not going to like it if the Denver Broncos did it to Nathaniel Hackett. There's a couple things that people need to put in perspective. I think a lot of this just had to do with the expectations. You get a guy like Russell Wilson and everybody thinks they're going to get theoretical version of that player, the best version of that player. The Brooklyn Nets were doing it with Ben Simmons the whole time. Ignoring all the facts, they thought they were getting theoretical Ben Simmons out the gate, and it just never happened. It's happening right now with the Denver Broncos. They thought they were getting Super Bowl version of Russell Wilson, and he hasn't been that since the Super Bowl, even in Seattle. Now, here's some things that are going for Nathaniel Hackett. Their last game, do you know they started, all their starting receivers were all undrafted players? Javonte Williams, probably their best offensive weapon, hurt. All their best offensive weapons hurt. Their offensive line is awful because people are hurt. They have the most players on IR in the NFL. They have put more people on the IR than anybody else in the NFL. This season is a wash. It will be over. So I don't want to fire Nathaniel Hackett with all these things working against him. Now, that being said, all the Broncos had to do is score 20 points per game, and they'd be 8-2 right now. Like, just to speak to the defense. So there is a problem, but there's excuses for the problem. And I think those are fixable excuses. You're going to get Javonte Williams back. Now Melvin Gordon's gone. You're going to have just prime Javonte, who's excellent. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, all these guys, everybody will be back fine. They have a nice young tight end that they gave a chance. The best thing that's happened this season. Dulcich has emerged, and he probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity if they weren't so damn bad and people weren't getting hurt. So now you have a tight end maybe for the future. So you fix that offensive line. The defense is still going to be excellent next year. And let's see what happens. You fix the offensive line, and I think Russ, you'll see a different Russell Wilson. And sometimes you kind of need these trials by fire to come out a better person. And I think Russ, who left the comfortability of Seattle and came to this, inferno now in Denver, I think it's going to make him better.
Of course, it's weird or ironic that we keep talking about offensive line because the offensive line was a problem in Seattle. And yet, all of a sudden, it's no longer the problem in Seattle with Geno Smith. And no, it's the problem in Denver with Russell Wilson, of course. It's always the offensive line, right? Adam, what are the Broncos, or what should the Broncos do with Nathaniel Hackett going forward?
Yeah, I want to give credit to Brian and Jerm too. They made some really good points there. And I really want to piggyback off what Jerm said as well. I'm not a big fan of firing after the first year either. Excuse me, because it seems like when teams do that, they're just looking for the immediate answer. Like, you got a short time to impress or you're gone. And to me, that's not really a super recipe for success. We know people just need time in general, sports, life, business, whatever it may be, to actually get the kinks out of the armor. But personally, and I said this before the season when I was still on Petty Sports, new coach, new quarterback, and we forget this team was sold before the season started. I know it might not have any crazy implications, but I went on the record and said that the Broncos will not be what people think the Broncos would not be what people think they're going to be. I thought there was a lot of noise around this franchise. It's not necessarily bad noise, but when you've got things going on with the team, that's going to have a ripple effect. It's energy. We clearly Russell Wilson is struggling right now. It is absolutely disgusting to know that ESPN's headline right now is Carson Wentz has more passing touchdowns than Russell Wilson, and Carson Wentz hasn't played in a month. Like, that's absolutely horrible. I'll just keep it at this. Hackett's either gone at the end of this season, whether we like it or not, or I think he's gone after next season if he doesn't turn things around. I get the injuries. I get the no offensive weapons. I get that the O-line is absolutely horrible, but this is what they're faced with. They're locked in with Russell Wilson, so he's not going anywhere. You know, you got weapons. The defense is great. What else are they going to look at? They're going to want to point the finger at somebody eventually. I think either after this season, Hackett's gone, he's going to get the Freddie Kitchen, Steve Wilkes treatment, or it's going to be at the end of next season. I'm not really sure, but I don't see him sticking around for much longer, honestly. And I hate it. I really hate it for the Broncos because I saw everyone out there like, oh, this is the best team in the AFC West, you know, Super Bowl bound, this, that, and the third. Exactly, Justin. And I was never on that prowess. I understood why y'all thought, but in a big thing, what either Jerm or Brian said, he does fall off at the end of seasons, and it looks like he's fallen off for this whole year. So it is what it is.
I will see, and I'll be the first to admit, I was the one who said the Denver Broncos would win the AFC West with the help of football because I knew the defense was elite, and I kept figuring they were a quarterback away. What I will say, Seattle and that front office with John Schneider and Pete Carroll know football, because what a lot of people don't know is that this is not now that they've been trying to move on from Russell Wilson. Apparently, from as far back as Patrick Mahomes' draft, the rumor has it that had Patrick Mahomes slid to them, they were going to draft Patrick Mahomes, which led to Russ signing that no trade or putting that no trade clause in his contract. And what y'all further didn't know, I'm sure you don't, John Schneider and Pete Carroll personally scouted Josh Allen in Wyoming. Like, they actually went to Wyoming to scout him. So again, it tells me they were ready to move on from Russell Wilson a lot earlier than we actually thought they were. But speaking of quarterbacks, guys, that teams may want to move on from, did y'all know that Jets can actually score points? Well, Mike White found out. Because I think the New York Jets kind of hung 31 points on the Bears after benching Zach Wilson and his, I wasn't the problem, but oh yes, I was a problem after being benched. So considering, Brian, that they spent a whole second round pick, not even a second round pick, sorry. They are a year removed from spending the second overall pick on this quarterback from BYU. And I will be the first to admit they probably shouldn't have known. And I was a big Zach Wilson fan. Brian, what do the New York Jets do with Zach Wilson?
They're in a sticky situation, to say the least. It would be an awesome story if Mike White, if I've tried to dub him back to last year as the White Lotus, would just take over and be awesome. But we saw this last year, and I hate to put the brakes on it, but last year, like, he had an amazing game. And then I think he followed that up a game or two later with like 4 picks. So that's what we're likely to see. And then it's going to be a lot of pressure again on Robert Saleh. Like, well, what do we do at quarterback? Are we just going to ride it out with Mike White now, even if he has one of those games? Are we going to turn to the vet, Joe Flacco? Or even though we made Zach Wilson inactive, like, they didn't just bench him. They made him inactive, which tells me it's not nearly just about his performance on the field. Like, people don't like him. And I don't know if you can turn back to him. Like, I really don't. Unless it completely crumbles, they will not turn back to him. And his starting career is likely over, which is unfortunate just for a young player for it to happen so fast. But that's the way it's going to go. He's not, if, again, he rides the bench the rest of the way, there's not going to be any trade market. Maybe some team trades a 6th-round pick, and the plan is for him to be the backup. But his starting days are over unless Mike White and Joe Flacco are throwing 3-4 picks in a game, or not to wish it on anybody, but of course injury is always a factor in the league.
7-4, you say that, but Jerm, Brian just hit us less than 2 years into his career. We're seeing that Zach Wilson likely will never start again in New York. Is this really what's going to happen with the New York Jets? You're on mute.
Yeah, probably. They're the New York Jets. Like, it's the way it is. But take a page from Washington's book, man. Vanilla Vic back. Mike White, give him a chance. He almost threw for the total amount of touchdowns Zach Wilson had on the season in one game. So Mike White he's not like a 10-year vet, right? He's a relatively new player to the NFL. You pulled him after 3 games because he wasn't supposed to be the starter because you had a high draft pick. Give him a chance. Like, guys who don't have a lot of NFL experience, they're going to have those 4-pick games. They're going to have bad games. Like, it just happens. You have to ride it out. I think I said this on this show before. I might have said it on Stuff About Sports. I don't believe Trent Dilfer and Aaron Rodgers, I think most of us will say is probably the best quarterback physically we've ever seen play, but they both have 1 Super Bowl each. To me, that means that there's more than one way to reach the goal. It is the front office job to assess your strengths and your limitations and to build the team around the quarterback you have. Washington needs to do it. San Francisco did it. And look at what's happening right now. They're on fire. Buffalo did it with Josh Allen. So you can do this with Mike White. Mike White clearly has the talent. He lit them up. And so build this team for him. I think Zach Wilson a team like the Patriots will probably throw a 6th-round pick. He'll sit behind. You know what I mean? Nathan Peterman got a job. You know what I mean? He'll get jobs. He'll get an opportunity at some point. Nathan Peterman almost started on Sunday, yesterday. So if it wasn't for Trevor Siemian got hurt in warm-ups like somehow, and Nathan Peterman was out there. But yeah, he pride of Northwestern. So Zach Wilson probably is done in New York. I don't think this is it for his career, but Brian said it, like, people just don't like you, dude. Like, that's the crux of it. And it's really bad that you've been in the NFL for 2 whole seasons and your biggest accomplishment is bagging your mom's friend. Like, that's weird. Like, it's a weird, like, you need to figure it out on the football field. And, I think Zach Wilson needs some of that what Baker Mayfield should have gotten this year. Take a step back, and I think Baker Mayfield's going to get it after this season. Hey, go sit down behind somebody and just relax. Geno Smith, do the Geno Smith, repair plan, and sit behind somebody, learn how to be a professional, a quarterback, and get your shot down the road whenever that comes, and just be ready for it.
Do you agree, Adam, that just like Brian and Jerm said, Zach Wilson's career as a starter is over?
At least with New York, yeah. I could maybe see like a real desperate team a couple years down the road. Maybe he's a free agent. They pick him up, give him a little shot. I think he'll have a chance, a very small chance to start again. It'll be one of those instances, kind of like, like I said, just free agent, picks him up, everyone's hurt, whatever. And I do think he'll eventually go on to another team as well. But as far as, what the Jets should do with this guy, they should turn back the clock to the 2nd pick of the draft and take Justin Fields. And maybe y'all don't agree, but clearly Zach Wilson was not the pick, right? I thought Justin Fields should have been the number 2 overall pick in the draft. I'm very grateful that he didn't go to the New York Jets. But then again, who knows what possibly could have happened. I never saw it in this guy. The only true comment or takeaway from the eye test that I really saw from him is he throws a lot of 50-50 balls. Yeah, he looks kind of pretty on camera when he plays well, but when does he play well? I mean, he was at BYU. We saw the teams he was going against. I think when you took a look at his numbers against some of those higher competition teams, he was not good. And the Jets put themselves in this situation. You take Zach Wilson at number 2 overall. I don't think if anyone really besides Jets fans thought that he was actually going to be successful in this league. And he had a great preseason his rookie year. Don't get me wrong, but that is preseason. The Jets clearly messed up here. I mean, it's tough to see this happen, but you got to get things right eventually in your front office. You got to get the right guys in place. So I think he'll have a chance to start somewhere else. Maybe he'll just have to be ready for the opportunity, like Jerm said. But I think, unfortunately, his best days, which weren't many, are behind him. And I just want to say, too, when he walked off in the post-game presser after kind of scratching his lip to saying no, I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin. Like, this guy doesn't even have any terms of accountability. When you look at his numbers, when you look at how he played, like, it's horrible. He's immature. He's younger than me, and I'm 25. Like, come on now. You're basically asking a kid born in 2001 to take a New York Jets team's far. Like, come on, dude. I mean, what are we doing here? So
So before we get out, and I probably agree with you all, like if you're a healthy scratch, because you're not even a backup, something's going on. People don't like you, and the coach doesn't either. So quickly, Adam, don't go far. Tonight, Colts, Steelers, who wins and why?
Yeah,
Sure.
I've honestly got the Steelers. I haven't, I mean, there's 3-7 and I think 4-6 going at it. I'll just be frank. My cousin's a big Steelers fan. I'm sure he'll be watching tonight. This could be a horrible game. It could be one that's close to the wire. I'm going to take the Steelers just because I personally don't mind who wins this game. Really, I got the Steelers though.
Brian, Steelers, Colts.
I'm taking the Colts. I think they, with Matt Ryan kind of re-getting the job, will bring some stability, and then Jonathan Taylor. I think that's what's going to get it done.
Same question. Muted.
Sorry about that.
Rookies.
I know. New microphone. Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Colts. Jeff Saturday just kind of bucking the system. I'm rooting for his success. But the Colts have actually been low key pretty good since he's gotten there. Like way better than they were before he got there. And the Steelers still have some problems. They're too sporadic. They have excellent receivers, but they don't throw the ball. It's weird what they're doing right now. I don't know if that's more about not George Pickens. What's the quarterback? Kenny Pickett. I don't know if it's more about him or what's going on over there, but the Colts are a low-key exciting team to watch, and I think I'm rolling with Jeff Saturday because a lot of people were hating on him for getting the job, and I just want him to continue to win games.
There you go.
I'm rolling with Jeff Saturday as well, but I don't know if this team is low-key exciting. I wouldn't use exciting as Colts in the same sentence.
They've won some. There were some close games. They had that heartbreaking loss. They've just been better, right? I think in comparison to what they were at the start of the year, it's like, the Colts got something going on.
Maybe scrappy.
Don't get me wrong, huh? I like Jeff Saturday, and I'll take Jeff Saturday over a lot of these incompetent coaches. And I'm not sure if you were here when I had my coaching right. Yes, you were here, Jerm. When I had a problem with all these assistant coaches who had an issue with Jeff Saturday getting a job, when history has shown all of you other coaches are just getting jobs because you are family and friends to somebody who's already a head coach or assistant coach. But I already had that right. I won't go again. I like Jeff Saturday. He knows football. And a lot of these coaches are incompetent and don't know football. So as we all want to get out here to watch Monday Night Football, who really no one wants to watch. Brian, plug yourself. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, I appreciate you having me back. It was fun. Got to do it again. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BS Takes. Is the main spot.
There is no point you.
Yeah, I mean, hashtag stuff about sports. Hashtag give us a shot network on your Googles. If you can't find us, you're not searching hard enough. At stuff about sports. Give us a shot network on at stuff about sports on Instagram. Give us a shot network on YouTube.
I promised y'all all season I would bring back Adam Lewis. You all thought I was joking, but every night, Adam Lewis. Go ahead, Adam.
Appreciate it as always, man. Brian, really great seeing you on the show tonight. Jerm, always love doing content with you as well, man. It was an absolutely great show. Told y'all before, I'll tell you again for everyone watching the show, I'm a real estate agent now in Atlanta, Georgia. Find me on Buy and Sell with AJL on all social media platforms. You can feel free to call me if you find my number on there. And kind of like Jerm, I'm everywhere. So if you can't find me, you're definitely not looking hard enough. It was a show tonight, guys, and I always appreciate the opportunity, Justin.
Always. And if you're watching the show, well, you already know how to find us. Hashtag thisJUSTin every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. in the Caribbean. Please, please, please put in that hashtag. None of us want Max Kellerman. We want this show. That's the imitation, thisJUSTin. That's hashtag thisJUSTin for your short form content that we put out every single day during the week. You want us on Twitter. You want us on Facebook. You want us on Instagram. I do make that place miserable. Hashtag thisJUSTin, but the long form content, YouTube, Monday nights, right here. So for Brian, for Jerm, and for Adam, I am indeed Justin of hashtag thisJUSTin. Behind the cold, and I will not be watching Monday Night Football. Who really needs to see the Steelers and Colts anyway? Thank you all guys so much for watching. I'll see you all next week.
See you, man.
Go Bills.
I know that after tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars. No, 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 no. I
take a look at my
I can
dream
let
world.
you land, you don't have to look up at the stars.
Check. If you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar. And the way I change gear, you can put me in the car. I remember when me and Seif used to sneak in.